From having two movie stars travel halfway across the world to adopt her, to completely cutting off a family member, this is the life story of the girl that Angelina Jolie adopted 17 years ago.
You remember her, right? If you don't, you might as well know that she's making big moves as a new member of the Alpha Kappa sorority. Zahara Marley Jolie-Pitt was born on January 8, 2000 in Hawass, Ethiopia. She was an orphan born into a village full of thousands of other orphans with no guarantee of a bright future. Later that year, while Jolie was touring Africa with her adopted son, Maddox, a Cambodian who had also been granted the chance to grow up in opulence in Los Angeles, everything changed. Maddox was a toddler back then and noticed that Zahara was in need of care. He also mentioned wanting a brother or sister from that region of Africa and how much he had always wanted to travel there. This was motivation enough to welcome little Zahara into the family, and since Jolie was dating Brad Pitt at the time, he traveled all the way to Ethiopia to make the adoption official. Almost a year after they first met, a judge from LA approved the couple's decision to change their adopted children's surnames, which issued that Maddox and Zahara's last names be legally changed to Jolie-Pitt. This symbolized Angelina's devotion to creating a family that she loved and cared for, because though the headlines looked very sweet and wholesome from afar, trouble awaited the newly adopted daughter. When your race is different from your adopted parents, especially when they're A-list Hollywood superstars, the media just won't leave you alone. Rumors were bound to spread, which they did, saying that both Angelina and Brad wanted to send Zahara back to Ethiopia because the adoption was nothing but a publicity stunt to make them look like good people. Of course, none of that was true, because Jolie has always talked about how she adores her children and how much Zahara has taught her. This includes knowledge of African culture and ways of being a loving and caring mother. I wish I could say the same thing about Mr. Pitt here, but I'll get to that in just a moment. Throughout Zahara's childhood, she was supported by nothing but love, and millions of dollars, of course. But was all of this enough for an adopted child from Ethiopia? It turns out that Zahara wanted to do a lot with her life at a very young age because at just 14, she opened her jewelry line. She teamed up with jeweler Robert Prokop, kickstarted the Zahara collection, and debuted her first piece on her mother at the premiere of Disney's Maleficent Mistress of Evil. She flaunted her piece on the red carpet as she posed in front of the paparazzi with her 5 siblings. What a lot of people appreciated was that all proceeds benefited the House of Ruth shelters, which provided housing to battered women and children. Imagine doing all of this at just 14 years of age. Things were looking great for Zahara up until everything went crashing down in 2017 onwards. This was the year when her biological mother resurfaced on the internet and requested to be reunited with her daughter. What made this 10 times more shocking than it already was the fact that Angelina was informed that Zahara's mother had died of AIDS, and this was back at the time of adoption. I'm pretty sure Jolie and Pitt talked to their daughter about this, and even if it was a heartbreaking conversation to have, everything changed when Mentawab Dawit Labiso tried contacting the family. It was revealed that Zahara's birth wasn't planned or consented to, and the identity of her father remains a secret. Mentawab was just 19 years old when she conceived Zahara, and after all those years, she felt that it was time to reconcile and hear from her. This didn't mean that she wanted Jolie's daughter back, because Labiso knew that the poverty-stricken life in Ethiopia couldn't provide for her, and she actually praised Angelina for what she'd done with her daughter. The letter she wrote to the Daily Mail said, "I would like Zahara to know she has a mother who loves her as much as Angelina." Mentawab's only wish was to see her beloved daughter before her time on this earth is over, and she doesn't think it's too much to ask from the Hollywood star. Believe it or not, this led to even more controversy surrounding Zahara's adoption. The biological family claimed that they were misled by the adoption agency and said that local officials assured them that they'd be able to keep in contact with their child, which never happened. The Wider Horizons Adoption Agency rechecked the case and confirmed that Zahara's biological mother passed away due to AIDS in 2005. It was as if she rose from the dead a decade later because Mentawab explained that she had to give Zahara up for adoption. Otherwise, her family would have caused problems. Neither Jolie nor Pitt acknowledged these claims and continued to raise Zahara as one of their own. It is obvious that two parents who have raised their daughter cannot trust a total stranger who is claiming to be her biological mother, especially after a registered agency informed them that she passed away in the year 2000. There have been no reports of Zahara reuniting with her mom, and many people think that she never moved forward with Mentawab's request. But sources say the reunion happened in 2019 when Angelina took her kids on a trip to Ethiopia. She was accompanied by her children, Shiloh, Knox, Vivian, and of course Zahara. As a treat for her eldest daughter, Jolie took the kids to meet with Sahle-Work Zewde, who was the first woman president of Ethiopia. This is where Zahara took her mother's humanitarian values, because the purpose of the visit was to discuss education, sanitary pad solutions, and Ethiopian culture and history. The eldest daughter has often been seen going on these political and humanitarian trips with her mom because Angelina is one of the very few stars in Hollywood who's a huge advocate for human rights, which aren't just within the United States. While at Zahara's hometown, Jolie also talked about ongoing efforts to find a cure for drug-resistant tuberculosis, which is being done through her Zahara program. It looks like the eldest daughter has a long life ahead of her, most of which will involve filling in her mom's shoes, in a good way, of course. Unfortunately for the family, the controversy didn't end there, because 2019 was the same year Pitt and Jolie called it quits. After 5 years of marriage, 3 kids, and 1 adopted child, the two A-listers ended their marriage when everyone least expected it. This all started in 2016 when Pitt was caught in a drunken altercation and harmed his wife in their private jet, in front of all their children. Sources say that Brad was also verbally and physically abusive toward Maddox, their first adopted son. Being a Hollywood star, you never really get time to spend quality time with the family. But Jolie has proven these stereotypes wrong and has walked red carpets with all her kids as a single unit. Kinda wholesome, if you ask me. This doesn't mean Pitt hasn't made any efforts to see his kids, because sources say he flew to Italy for his twins' birthday. Shiloh has gotten the shorter end of the stick because he was reported to have made a fuss on her 16th birthday. Once things were taken to court, Brad was given visitation rights, while his ex-wife received physical custody in 2021. Through an appeal, Angelina ended up getting full custody, while the distribution of their assets was yet to be discussed. To specifically throw an appeal for full custody could only mean one thing: Jolie wants to keep her kids safe from a dangerous man. Now, what does Zahara have to say about all of this? Granted that the divorce of their parents was emotionally disturbing for them, but with recent news about the eldest daughter's life, people can conclude her say in this situation. Zahara has been attending Spelman College and joined the Alpha Kappa sorority. In an Instagram video of her entering the sorority, the caption mentioned her as Zahara Marley Jolie. In the video itself, she screams her name out as, yep, you guessed it, Zahara Marley Jolie. It looks like she officially dropped her father's name from the surname, a process that symbolized the beginning of a healthy family back in 2005. It's clear to see that Angelina is her #1 cheerleader, because she has often talked about how proud she is of her daughter and how Zahara taught her about African culture. The two, along with the rest of Jolie's children, seem to be happy living without the patriarch at home, and fans have praised the mother for the figure she's become in the household. Zahara has yet to decide on a future for herself, whether it's acting in Hollywood or a more humanitarian career like her mother. And so, from completely cutting off a family member to having 2 movie stars travel halfway across the world to adopt her, that was the life story of the girl that Angelina Jolie adopted 17 years ago.